Hello everyone. Welcome to Jonabell. Happy Derby Week. My name is Brianne and I'm going to be showing you guys around Jonabell today. So we're going to do a tour of our Stallion Complex, see our stallions, including 2 Kentucky Derby winners, Street Sense and Nyquist, and just kind of get to know what we do around here and get excited about Derby Week. So follow me, we'll head on into the trophy room and get started. So, as I said, welcome to Jonabell Farm. Jonabell is part of Godolphin, which is a global thoroughbred breeding and racing operation. And so Godolphin, we have breeding farms and racing stables all over the world. So we're in America, Europe, Japan, Australia, and of course in Dubai. And here in Kentucky, Godolphin has 6 thoroughbred farms and a little over 6,000 acres of land. So we have a couple hundred mares and 10 stallions here at Jonabell. So today we'll be focusing mainly on the stallion side of our operation. So our stallion business is called Darley, and we've got around 60 or 70 stallions around the world that stand under the Darley brand. So we have 10 stallions here in America that stand here at Jonabell, including, as I said, 2 Kentucky Derby winners here, which is really cool. And then also we've got Bernardini, who's the sire of one of the favorites for the Kentucky Derby as well. So we've got Derby fever here already. A little bit of a delayed Derby this year, but we're excited that it's gonna get to run finally on Labor Day weekend, and we're really looking forward to it. So we're gonna head on outside, give you a little bit of a history of the farm, and then walk into the barn and see the stallions. So let's go out the door this way. This is the Stallion Complex here at Jonabell. Jonabell, it's actually a really historical property. This whole area of Lexington was originally settled right after the American Revolution by a man named Colonel Abraham Bowman. So he actually fought in the Revolutionary War, moved here after the war, and settled about 8,000 acres of land. So all the land that Jonabell sits on today, as well as Mill Ridge Farm across the road from us, all the way down to part of the land that Keeneland sits on. So really historical property. It was in his family for quite a while. Passed on through a few other hands, and then in 1954, the farm, the 800 acres that the farm sits on now, was purchased by John Bell and his wife Jessica, and that's where the name Jonabell came from. So they bought the farm in '54, owned it for almost 50 years. Lots of good horses were born here during the Bell ownership. Damascus, one of the best horses in history. He's probably the best horse that was ever bred here. And then of course Affirmed, who is buried right here. Affirmed lived here for about the last 10 years of his life while the Bells owned the property. So Affirmed, of course, was the 11th Triple Crown winner back in 1978. And then there was a 37-year gap between Affirmed and American Pharoah, which is the longest gap in the history of the Triple Crown. So after he won the Triple Crown in '78, you know, a lot of people thought so many years, year after year, it didn't happen. A lot of people thought maybe it was never gonna happen again. But finally, after a 37-year wait, American Pharoah pulled it off in 2015, and then Justified just a few years later. So pretty crazy, 37 years without one, and then you have 2 in the space of 4 years. But Affirmed, as I said, he lived here for about the last decade of his life. So he came over here in the early 90s to Jonabell, lived here for about 10 years until he died in 2001. But Affirmed is actually buried whole under his statue. He's the only horse on the farm that's buried whole. Every other horse that's buried on the farm is cremated, but it's pretty cool he's buried whole under his statue there. So we're very, very fortunate to have a Triple Crown winner buried on the property. The first stallion retired to stud here is Street Cry, who's buried right over here. So he's really special to us. He was a great racehorse for Godolphin. He was a homebred. He won the Dubai World Cup, and he also came over to Churchill Downs and won the Stephen Foster, which is a grade 1 at Churchill. And so he retired to stud here in 2003. He immediately hit the ground running. In his very first crop, he had Street Sense, who we'll see in just a few minutes, who won the Kentucky Derby. He also had Street Boss in his first crop, and of course Zenyatta, one of the greatest mares of all time, was in Street Cry's first crop as well. So a heck of a first crop. And then he also in recent years has had a mare down in Australia named Winx. who is probably the greatest Australian racehorse of all time. So pretty incredible to have, maybe, the best American race mare of all time and the best Australian race mare of all time by the same stallion. Pretty amazing. But so he's been cremated. He is buried under his statue here, and so we made a statue for him as well, just to pay tribute to everything that he's done for our operation here. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have hit the ground running and really got off the bat. He kind of made Darley America as a brand and really got us going. So we're very, very grateful to him and everything that he did for this farm. So we'll head on into the Stallion Barn now and get to know a few of the stallions. Go and see Street Sense and Nyquist. So now we're taking a look at a few of our stallions. First of all, we're going to have a look at Street Sense, who is one of our 2 Kentucky Derby winners that stand here. So Street Sense won the 2007 Kentucky Derby. He was bred and owned while he was racing by Jim Taffel, and Carl Nafsker trained him. So he was champion 2-year-old in 2006. He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile by about 10 lengths under Calvin Burrell, and was champion 2-year-old in 2006 after winning that big Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and then came back as a 3-year-old the next year in 07 and won the Kentucky Derby.
And there's Street Sense with a huge move on the far turn, and Calvin Burrell saving ground every step of the way, but it's hard spun to catch as they come off the turn. A mile and 37 flat, and Street Sense draws alongside as they move headlong into the final furlong, and Street Sense has roared from 19th position to first in the Derby. Hard spun, tries to hold for second, and then farther back in Sedgefield on any given Saturday. And here is Street Sense, a stretch running sensation.
And that actually made him the first horse in history to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Kentucky Derby. And since he did that, only one other horse has done it, which is Nyquist, who we'll meet here in just a couple minutes. So pretty special to have the only 2 stallions to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Derby double are both here at Jonabell. But Street Sense, after he won the Kentucky Derby, he went up to Saratoga, won the Jim Dandy and the Travers as well. And he's actually the last horse to win the Kentucky Derby and the Travers double as well. So really impressive race record. And a lot of times I'll say, what he did winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, the Kentucky Derby, and the Travers in some ways is almost as hard as winning the Triple Crown. It's 3 really big races, 3 of the most important races in the country, spread over almost a 10-month period. Very, very hard to do to stay, at that level for that long, and to be able to consistently, be the best in your crop in the Breeders' Cup, the Derby, and the Travers. So incredible racehorse. So we acquired him from Mr. Taffel, brought him here to stand at stud the next year, and he's just gone on to be one of the top stallions in the country. He stands for a $75,000 stud fee now. He's had a bunch of Grade 1 winners, Obby K, Sweet Reason, Wedding Toast, Callback, and in the last couple of years has really been on a roll with McKenzie, who's a 4-time Grade 1 winner, and now Maxfield, who runs in our colors, who won the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland last fall. So he's actually, Street Sense is the only stallion with 4 graded winning colts on dirt this year in 2020. So having a heck of a year, and just going from strength to strength. So this is Nyquist. So he's the 2016 Kentucky Derby winner. He was owned while he was racing by Paul Reddam. So Mr. Reddam bought him at the 2-year-old sales at Fasig-Tipton in Florida for $400,000. He's a son of Uncle Mo, who's one of the hottest young stallions in the country. Mr. Reddam named him Nyquist after one of his favorite hockey players. He's named after Gustav Nyquist. So that's where he got his name from. And it's kind of fun. He's got his first 2-year-olds on the track right now, and we're seeing a lot of them with hockey-themed names, which is really cool. But after he was bought at the sales, he went into training with Doug O'Neill as a 2-year-old, went out to California, and was undefeated in 5 starts as a 2-year-old. So was one of the best 2-year-olds we've had in a long time. Broke his maiden first time out at Santa Anita, went to Del Mar, won the Grade 2 Best Pal, then won the Del Mar Futurity, the Front Runner, and then shipped here to Keeneland and won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So 3-time Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old, undefeated in 5 starts, and then came back the next year as a 3-year-old, won the San Vicente out in California, shipped cross country to win the Florida Derby, and then went to Churchill Downs and won the Kentucky Derby. So he was undefeated in his first 8 races, just the second horse besides Street Sense to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Kentucky Derby, and he was the first undefeated 2-year-old champion to win the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slew back in the 70s.
And it's Nyquist. Nyquist has taken the lead on the outside. Gunrunner second at the rail. 5 lengths back to Destin in third. And they come to the final furlong. Exaggerator is closing in. Nyquist to catch with a 16th to go. Gunrunner, Exaggerator on the outside. Nyquist and Exaggerator, they're coming to the line together. And Nyquist is still unbeaten. He has won the Kentucky Derby.
Just a phenomenal racehorse. You know, great pedigree, obviously being a son of Uncle Mo. So he was really well received immediately when we retired him to stud here in 2017. So he stands for a $40,000 stud fee, has been at that level since he started, and has been booked full. About 150 mares would be a full book here at Jonabell, and he's been booked full every year. And it's pretty impressive, you know, for a stallion to start off at $40,000 and stay at their original fee, continually breeding a full book every year. A lot of stallions you'll see be discounted, you know, later on in their 3rd and 4th year, but he's been just as popular, if not more popular, you know, this year in his 4th year than he was in year 1, which is incredible. His yearlings were really well received at the sales last year. He was the leading first crop yearling sire. They averaged 236,000, and then he's off to a flying start right now. He's got his first 2-year-olds hitting the track right now. He's had 3 winners. He had his first winner was Dreamquist over at Ellis Park for Kenny McPeak. She won by 4 lengths. She's pointing to the Pocahontas, grade 3 at Churchill Downs next month, so pumped about that. And then he had his next 2 winners on the same day within about 15 minutes of each other. A few weeks ago, he had Lady Lily. She won on debut for Phoenix Thoroughbreds, and Steve Asmussen up at Saratoga. And then he had Gretzky the Great for Mark Cassey and Eclipse Thoroughbreds, and Gary Barber won by 4 lengths at Woodbine, and then came back this past weekend actually and won a stake up at Woodbine as well, won the Soaring Free Stakes. So that's pretty impressive for him to already have his first black type winner at this point in the year with his first 2-year-olds is really exciting. So definitely looking forward to the rest of this year and seeing what his babies continue to do on the racetrack this year. But from what they've shown so far, it looks like the sky's the limit. So pretty excited about it. So Steve, this is Steve here. He looks after him, and they're good buddies. Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate it. You know, they'll usually, from the time they retire from racing, you know, in the first 3 or 4 years that they're at stud, they'll put on probably a couple 100 pounds. So he's definitely filled out a lot. Looks incredible. So the last but certainly not least, we're gonna have a look at Bernardini here. So Philip Hampton looks after him. He's been with him the whole time that he's been here. Bernardini is a homebred, so he's extra special to us here. He is probably my favorite. I'm a bit partial, but he's my favorite of all of our stallions. I think he is just the most beautiful horse I've ever seen in my life. So he was trained by Tom Albertrani. He did not run in the Kentucky Derby, but he did win the Preakness Stakes, which is, of course, the middle jewel of the Triple Crown. He also won the Travers, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and was second in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Retired to stud here back in 2007 after being named champion 3-year-old colt of 06, and has just been an incredible stallion ever since. He has 15 Grade 1 winners. He's turned into probably the best young broodmare sire in the world. He has 9 Grade 1 winners as a broodmare sire already, which as a 17-year-old stallion, no stallion in history has ever had more Grade 1 winners as a broodmare sire at age 17 than Bernardini does right now. And then the most exciting thing going on right now with him is he's the sire of Art Collector, who's going to be probably the second choice in the betting on Kentucky Derby Day, so one of the favorites. Art Collector is undefeated this year, so he won an allowance at Churchill. He's run 3 straight triple-digit buyers. So won an allowance at Churchill, got a 102 buyer, went to the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, a Grade 2, won that really, really impressively over the Philly Swiss Skydiver, who's going to be one of the favorites in the Oaks, and then just recently won the Ellis Park Derby over at Ellis Park. So just an incredible, incredible horse. He's a homebred for Bruce Lunsford, trained by Tom Drury, and he's going to be very, very tough in the Kentucky Derby. So we're just super excited to see him run in the Derby, and you know that would kind of be the icing on the cake for Bernardini's stud career. He's done just about everything else. You know, he's had 2 Travers winners, Stay Thirsty and Alpha. He's won, you know, had the winners of just about every major dirt race in America. Is a phenomenal, like I said, phenomenal sire, grandsire, broodmare sire. So for him to get a Kentucky Derby on his resume would just be kind of like the ultimate icing on the cake for his career. But he's such a special horse. He's got an incredible mind, just really, really smart, all class, does whatever you ask him. Just really lucky to have him. So this is Graham Lovett. He's our stallion manager here at Jonabell. You've been here, how many years have you been here now, Graham?
6 years this time around.
Awesome. So if you just want to talk a little bit about kind of the daily routine of the stallions. Obviously right now we're in the off season, so it's pretty quiet right now, but during the breeding season, it's pretty busy days. You want to kind of talk like what their daily routine is like leading up to the breeding season, and once breeding season starts, kind of what a typical day is like.
Well, right now it's the off season. It's at a relaxed time for the boys, and they'll get turned out at 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll bring them in at 12 and give them a bath and a quick groom. That's about it. That's all we really do with them this time of the year.
Yeah.
Let them rest. Dinner time's at 3:30, and then we repeat the process the next day. About the start of November is when we'll start exercising the boys and getting them ready for the breeding season. And we'll start the water aquatread. And they'll be in the aquatread for a good 10 minutes every day leading up to the season. We did it last year for the first time, and we noticed a significant difference with most of the boys. It tightened them up, and they were a lot fitter coming into the season. And it's the same routine all year round, and the only change between breeding season and off season is we have 3 breeding sessions thrown in amongst that. It's at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, 1:30 at lunchtime, and 6:30 in the evening. And we just like to keep that same routine for the boys, and yeah, it works.
And who likes the aquatread the most?
Well, I will have to say Nyquist. He loves it. But none of them don't mind at all. They work well. I would say Medalli d'Oro, he loves going out there of an afternoon, and we'll give him a pick of grass, well, all of them really, a pick of grass for 10-15 minutes of an afternoon after it. It breaks up their day.
So here we are in our breeding shed. So I thought I would just walk you guys quickly through kind of the breeding process and sort of what goes on leading up to the breeding season, and give you a little bit more insight into the stallion business and kind of what goes on in the stallion business. So our breeding season in the Northern Hemisphere runs from middle of February through the end of June. So it's about 4.5 months long. It's all live cover in the thoroughbred industry, so there's no artificial insemination. It's not allowed. So every mare that's going to be bred to one of our stallions has to physically come here and be bred in a natural mating, or what we call a live cover. And we'll usually set our stud fees for the upcoming breeding season in October or November, so that mare owners have a few months to kind of make their mating decisions before the breeding season starts in February. And so when we're setting stud fees for the stallions, like for a new stallion just off the racetrack, their initial stud fee is going to be based on their race record, their pedigree, and their conformation, which is what they look like physically. And then, so that's obviously like with Nyquist, for example, when he first retired to stud in 2017, we set his fee at $40,000. It stayed at $40,000 every year. And then now he's got his first 2-year-olds hitting the track this year. So once a horse's first 2-year-olds hit the track in their 4th year at stud, that's when you're gonna watch to see how those 2-year-olds run. And then from there on out, their stud fee is either going to go up or go down depending on how their runners are doing on the racetrack. So kind of their race record and their pedigree a little bit kind of goes out the window at that point, and then it's all about what are the babies doing on the track. And so with Nyquist, fortunately, he's doing great. He's already got a stakes winner, like I said. He's got 3 winners, so hopefully they'll keep coming out running and his stud fee will get to go up next year. That's the hope. That's what you dream of. And so then from there on out for the rest of their life, every year you just kind of reevaluate what runners, what results they've had on the track over the past year, their sales results and sales averages as well, and decide every year, does the stallion need to just stay the same as where he was last year? Does his stud fee need to go up, or does his fee need to go down? And we'll publish those fees in October, November. At that point, mare owners can start inquiring about mares that they'd like to breed to particular stallions here. We limit each of our stallions to about 150, maybe 155 mares per breeding season. So that's our kind of our own company policy that will limit them to about that number. But it's not a first come, first serve basis. So it's not the first 150 mares that call and want to, be bred to Nyquist automatically get a spot. It's actually, you know, we go through kind of a selection process. So each mare that gets submitted for a stallion, we're gonna look at that mare's pedigree, race record, and her produce record. So what babies has she, you know, produced on the racetrack if she's already had babies that have run, her age, her fertility history, lots of factors that we're gonna look at with the mare when we're deciding whether to accept that mare. But if we like your mare and we think she's a good match for Nyquist, for example, we're gonna both sign a contract saying that she's gonna be bred to him in the upcoming season. And then once the breeding season starts in February, the actual day and time that she's gonna come here to be bred depends on her estrus cycle. So mares have about a 21-day cycle, so they ovulate about once every 21 days, and we wanna breed her in about the 24 to 48 hours prior to her ovulation. And as Graham said earlier, our breeding times, we breed 3 times a day during the breeding season. So our breeding times are about 7 a.m., 1 p.m., and 6 p.m. So our stallions each have 3 appointments available basically every day that they're available for mares to come and be bred. And so this is the breeding shed right here. So this is where it all happens. We're in the receiving area right now. So this is where the mares will come in and get teased. So we'll have a teaser stallion in here. So we'll bring the mare in, get her teased, and then she's ready to go into the shed. So we'll kind of walk through and just do a quick little walk through one of our actual sheds here. So we actually have 2 breeding sheds in this building. We usually just use one at a time. So this is one of our sheds in here. And so this is the actual room where the breeding takes place. It's really important to have, you can see the padding on the walls, the soft surface on the floor. It's all about safety first in here. That's the most important thing. There are always at least 5 people in the breeding shed with the horses during a breeding. So it's very, very well controlled. These are obviously really valuable animals, so we want to absolutely put safety first. So safety of the horses and of the humans involved, obviously. So everybody that works in the breeding shed wears a helmet and a protective vest for safety. Both horses are handled, so it's just, you know, very important that we make sure that everybody is kept safe. That's the most important thing. Graham, our stallion manager, who you guys met earlier, will kind of oversee everything, make sure everything goes smoothly. And then Natalie, our vet, is also in here for every breeding as well. But it's typically a pretty quick process. I'd say they're in here for about 5 to 10 minutes on average. Nyquist is probably our most efficient breeder. He's usually in here for about 30 to 60 seconds probably. So he loves his job. But all of them are definitely good at their job. They like the ladies, and yeah, usually 5 to 10 minutes they're in here, and that's all it takes. And then as soon as they're finished, the mare will go right back to her trailer and head on home. So the mares that come to be bred here, they're only here for probably about 20-30 minutes altogether. They get vanned over from the farm where they live, get bred, head right back home. So it's quick in and out. And then once the mare gets home, about 2 weeks later, they can ultrasound her to check for pregnancy. So hopefully she got pregnant. Hopefully about 11 months later, she'll have a baby. So it's an 11-month gestation. And then that's when we get paid our stud fee. So stud fees in the thoroughbred industry are a live foal guarantee. That's pretty much industry standard, which means you don't pay a stud fee unless your mare gets pregnant and actually delivers a live foal. And then the fee is due after the baby is born. And I'd say on average, probably about 80% of mares bred will produce a live foal. So pretty good odds. But so that's just kind of a quick overview of the breeding process and what we do here. If y'all have any questions about that, just be sure to ask them in the comments and we'll type back our answers when this airs. But just kind of a quick overview of the breeding process. The stallions are about to get fed their afternoon meal. So they get fed every day at 3:30 in the afternoon. Most of them get fed twice a day, so about 5 o'clock in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon. A couple of them also get an evening feed, but most of them are fed twice a day. So we'll walk over to the stallion barn and watch them get fed their afternoon meal to finish up. So. The stallions, like I said, they get fed, most of them twice a day, so this is their afternoon meal, and they get very excited about it. They're very vocal about getting fed. Hard Spun here was actually second in Street Sense's Kentucky Derby. He was on the lead the whole way. Street Sense was in last, came up the rail and passed Hard Spun. He held on for second. Curlin was 6 lengths behind him in third, so one of the best Derby fields ever. They get a carrot with every meal. I think they go through about 75 pounds of carrots in this barn every week, so lots of carrots. they get, it's a sweet feed that we feed. It comes from Hallway Feeds, which is a local feed mill. So they make all of our feed custom for us. And then they just get a few supplements to go along with it as well. So thank you all so much for tuning in and watching today. Happy Derby week, everybody. Hope everybody really enjoys watching the Derby from home this year. But thanks so much for watching and learning a little bit about our Kentucky Derby winners and what we do around here. If anybody has any questions at all about anything that we talked about during the tour or anything that we didn't talk about that you want to know about, just put your questions in the comments and we'll get back to you and answer those as quickly as we can. But thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody tuning in, and see you next time. Happy Derby.